the pollster, we've called him a guru, we've called him a titan. How about behemoth? The polling behemoth, Professor Sir John Curtice, said that even if flights do take off before the election, which may still be unlikely, that Keir Starmer will be Downing Street's next occupant. To tell us whether he thinks that's changed, John Curtice is back with us and we can speak to him now. Morning, John.
Good morning to you.
So this has been an awful lot of long time coming, as we've reported on this programme. There's been a lot of wrangling. It has finally gone through the parliamentary system. The talk is that in the next 12 weeks, the first flight will go. Does it make a difference, do you think? How important a moment is this, electorally speaking, for the government?
Well, it's certainly going to matter electorally in the sense that whether it succeeds or fails, this perhaps is the last substantial card that the government seems to have up its chest that it hasn't already played in its continuing but so far unsuccessful attempt to try to narrow Labour's opinion poll lead, which as we speak still stands at 20 points. And the government can point to polling evidence that suggests that on balance, rather more people seem to favour the idea than are opposed. Though I do say on balance, it's not overwhelming, and it does depend a little bit on how you ask the question. Yeah. And it is also accompanied by some scepticism about whether or not it would work. But it's certainly interesting. The Labour Party feels able to challenge this, unlike other things, the cards the government has played, such as the reduction in national insurance. And that is certainly a reflection of the fact that certainly those people who support the Labour Party, as opposed to those who support the Conservatives, are inclined to be against the scheme. So those are things to take inside. Now, two things, however, for the government, I think, to worry about. The first is that although voters, when they're asked in polls what are the most important issues facing the country, immigration is one of the things that comes up. Once you start trying to find out, well, why have the Conservative Party lost votes so far? What are the concerns that are associated with being less reluctant to vote Conservative again, having voted Conservative in 2019, you discover that immigration doesn't seem to be on that list. In other words, people who think that immigration, whether legal or illegal, has gone up, don't seem to be any less loyal to the Conservatives than those who think, well, actually, government's handling immigration reasonably well. The same, by the way, is not true if you do the equivalent analysis for the economy or for the NHS. So in terms of at least the causes of the government's difficulties, immigration doesn't seem to be high on the list, which therefore gives grounds for some doubt as to whether or not it's necessarily on the list of potential remedies.
Does it need to succeed, or does that not matter? That's the other question, I suppose. It probably, if it doesn't get started till 12 weeks, actually, to be fair as to whether this works or not, it will take months, you would have thought. Does that question of success, metrical success, matter, or is it just the attempt to try it, the success in having the policy rather than the success in the policy working? Do you think that they will make that voters will draw a distinction between those two things?
It may be for some voters who feel that, well, at least the government is trying, at least we're now sending some of these folk back who they think shouldn't be here in the first place. But the government, at the end of the day, with all the things it's trying to do, it faces two challenges. One is that things need to happen in its favour. So it needs to reduce the number of people coming across the channel in much the same way as it needs to reduce the number of people on the NHS waiting list, and it needs to improve the state of the economy. But, and this is the crucial point, it's also then got to be able to claim in the voters' eyes the reward for that it should have the credit for that achievement. And the broad strategic problem this government faces, it's true of this issue, it's true of the taxation, it's true of the NHS, is that it's asking voters, please vote for us, because towards the end of our term of office, we have reversed things that for the most part have happened during our term of office. Yeah. So we're now being asked to vote for them because they're reducing taxes even though they have increased taxes. They're asking us now to vote for them because NHS waiting times need to come down even though they increased dramatically on them. And equally now, they're asking people to vote for them because they're now trying to stop the boats, even though we've had record levels of crossings under their watch. You can see why, politically at least, this is potentially a difficult ask. Even if voters might think they're now beginning to be on the right path, The question is, as given the record in voters' eyes the last 4 years, whether or not this is going to be enough for them to say, well, actually, perhaps maybe therefore I give the government the benefit of the doubt after all.
Two quick questions just to finish on, John, if I may. A lot of chats about the ECHR. Everything's on the table. The government could pull out of it. There are some Tories who think it should be a manifesto commitment. There's talk of coming out of the ECHR. Is that in any way going to win over votes?
Well, the polling on that's pretty mixed. Quite a lot of opinion polls actually who suggest that it's not necessarily a terribly good idea. One of the actual potential ironies of the bill that's just gone through is that actually some of these cases may reach the ECHR much more quickly than otherwise be the case because the national routes for appeal have been stopped. So we may find out sooner rather than later. Of course, I guess what the government's critics will argue, though, again depends how the public feel about this, but that given what we're talking about at a time when we're complaining about Israel, Hamas, the Houthis and Russia, all allegedly flouting international law, you can see why being potentially accused of the UK being accused of flouting international law in terms of its wider diplomatic efforts is not necessarily going to be a good place for the UK to be.
And